Hey Beth, I'm recording after a week of having the flu and while still recovering from a sinus infection. So if my voice sounds weird, that's why. Either that or it's my poor mic quality on this phone I refuse to replace for lots of reasons. So I'm going to talk about a thriller I read a while ago. It is Ask for Andrea by Noele Ihle. It's a murder story about a serial killer from the point of view of three of his victims after they have become ghosts. One of them decides to stay with her body. One of them decides to follow the killer home. The other goes home to her own family to follow up on the investigation and see what's happening with them as they go through her loss. Slowly, the ghosts kind of come together to try to figure out how to stop this guy, and you get a lot of focus on his home life. It turns out that he lives with his wife and kids, two pretty little girls, and a housewife. They're a Mormon family, and there's some details in there that feel like they came from, an actual Mormon, at least according to Alyssa Grenfell's blog, stuff like the mom having doomsday prepper stuff that she shows off when a bishop comes to visit. That is apparently kind of accurate to some parts of Mormon culture. It's also kind of a nice commentary on how this guy keeps his wife at home and submissive and taking care of the kids like you're supposed to do in a traditional Mormon marriage, but she finds an inner strength within her when she starts to think that her husband is becoming more erratic and more violent. So it doesn't talk down to the women. The title comes from when you go to bars or first date spots, then there will be often a flyer in the women's restroom saying if you go to the bar and you order this specific drink or you ask for a specific employee, that will tell us that you need to get away from your date and you're not safe. So it's a code to employees to get you an Uber or to keep you in the back room while this guy leaves. An act which takes both the courage of the person in the dangerous situation to speak out and reach out to somebody and the help of these people who don't really know someone else to be willing to help that stranger when they come to them. And that's basically the relationship that the ghosts have to this wife character throughout the story. Part of the reason I wanted to talk about this one is because my library recently got a second book by the same author. No, it is not the prequel to this book, which I have barely looked at. Instead, it's a book about the Mountain Meadows Massacre, written by the same author and with a similar thing of having three different wives be the perspective characters, but it's a period piece from the perspective of these Mormon wives during this massacre that really took place in the 1800s. So for a second, I was trying to remember the details of the massacre, and I was like, is it weird that it's all white women? Because I remember the Paiutes being involved somehow, but apparently it's historically debated whether or not the Paiutes were actually involved or whether people just said they were involved. What's undisputed is that Mormons did dress up in brownface to pretend that it was just Paiutes doing this massacre against these Arkansas immigrants to the west. But even before I remembered that, I decided it's actually fair for what appears to be an actually either Mormon or ex-Mormon author examining the history of her own culture and the experiences of what would have probably been her ancestors. So I thought that was a really cool idea and wanted to bring attention to that first book before I tried giving the second one a read. Just for a quick update, I also started reading The Entanglement of Rival Wizards by Sarah Rash. I'm updating you because I talked about those books last time. And yeah, this book's fine and everything, but I'm over here like pre-ordering and waiting for the sequel that talks about the half-giant best friend in the book because he's a precious good boy with religious trauma, and you know that I love that. Quasimodo affected me deeply. I'm recording this when I finally have my voice back and less than 12 hours before I have a flight. I need to leave the house before 3 a.m. That'll be fun. I'll see you in a bit, I guess. Bye.